Okay, let's go to the next question. And it's from Lachlan Piccoli, who is a Chronicles Tifosi Patreon member. Hello, and he asks, which manager in Serie A, outside the current top 7, do you believe can make the step up to a major team in coming years and be a success? And is there a specific team you think they would suit? So top 7, so that doesn't include Vincenzo Italiano, so I'm out.
Do you know what, Mina? I was literally, as you were asking this, I was saying, I'm just going to double check the league table because I'm pretty sure they moved ahead of Roma, and of course they did. So the current top 7, as of today, we cannot have Vincenzo Italiano. And it's funny that both of us clearly had that name in our heads because for sure he's a wonderful manager who I think I really appreciate what a nurturing presence he seems to be for his players. And I think that probably, I don't know what the intention of the question was from Lachlan. Maybe Lachlan really wanted to be strict and ignore top 7. But if you were not thinking of it in that sense, perhaps you were thinking of Roma as part of the top 7, Italiano as part of it. I think the other obvious one for me, and we talk about him plenty, is I think Ivan Juric is going to deserve that step up to coach a really top team. And I think that he has obviously got...
There are some questions. Okay. Oh, yeah, sorry.
I'll finish the case 4 and you can bring the question marks. I'm sure there are plenty, but I think he's clearly an apple that's fallen from the Gianpiero Gasperini tree. And he's brought some of that sort of ideology of playing one-on-one football all over the pitch and empowering your players and encouraging them to trust themselves and back themselves. And I think that style of football is very appealing and enjoyable to watch. I think he's got some other influences outside of Gasperini. I think his football, at least so far that we've seen from him in the way that they're playing at Verona this season, is a different level of aggression. I mentioned it again on the main podcast this week. Like he's got his team in this hyper aggressive mode where it's all in your face all of the time, and we don't care if we get whistled a lot for fouling you because we're just going to make you feel from the first whistle to the last whistle like you are constantly dealing with us in your face. And I think there are some teams that would really, even at the higher end, really benefit from that. Whether or not he's got the tactical chops to do the really, really big ones, the Juventus of the world, I'm not sure yet. But for instance, maybe to be provocative, if you want me to name a club, why don't I say one whose fans won't thank me for it because they don't want to see their manager changed. We talked about this as well. The Roma supporters might still be in love with Mourinho. But I think what Roma fans have wanted and what I think they're getting with Mourinho is all of that commitment, all of that drive, all of that willingness to assault an opponent and not be passive, not surrender to your fate, be committed. I think a team like Roma, who are crying out for that little bit of just, get in there and be like that could be quite a nice fit. Or, I don't know, in my head I'm trying to ask if it could work at Napoli as well. I think that might be too combustible for Napoli and Naples, but maybe we do talk about Napoli sometimes as well. It's just lacking that little bit of final willingness to back themselves. And I think Juric does get his players to back themselves. So maybe Napoli as well, but Roma is the one that I have in my head.
I think that because we associate Napoli to this aesthetically pleasing style of football, that it would be a departure for them to go for somebody who's a lot about like rock and roll than he is about tiki-taka. Yeah. But I do see what you mean in sense of what he does on a mental level. I think that is what's so brilliant about him. It's also how he engages with his men, with his players. They live for him by the end of it. He is such an important member in that dressing room, and how much he manages to help players get on board with what it is that he's trying to teach them. I think defensively, he's a very capable coach. I have sometimes a little bit of an issue with him from an attacking sense. Another thing about him is he makes his players very tactically versatile, and he can play different formations and teach them what they need to do if they do need to be slotted into another direction. We especially saw that at Hellas Verona, especially with a player like Tamesi, that he used in literally every single role you can imagine on that pitch at the time. One point he was a centre-back, one point he was a forward, he is a midfielder, was brilliant. My only thing is that sometimes he can sort of fix on a route to goal, on a direction that he wants to attack in, and isn't then very flexible after that to look at different ways. I don't think that necessarily, when I look at Inzaghi, I think he has so much in his arsenal in terms of creating attacking schemes. They will attack you through the middle. They will attack you from wide. They can attack you through your centre backs, through everything. And that is what's so brilliant as well about Atalanta. But Juric, I'm yet to really see or feel that. And I don't know whether it is because he hasn't had the attacking players to work with to really make that kind of a difference as well. Because it's obviously also a lack of technique in the teams that he has managed. They're not going to be teams that have Milinkovic Savic and Luis Alberto like Inzaghi had at Lazio or whatever he was at Hellas Verona, and he is at Torino, and he has Belotti who came back and scored a goal. So you can say if anything it's working out, but I still think I have to be proved wrong about that. I still think it's Vincenzo Italiano. If we're talking about the top 7, then I wonder if Mourinho can go to a top club and do something special. I'm joking.
Oh my gosh, Mina, just going there. Oh my goodness.
Say that, but Vincenzo Italiano is my everything. I love what he does. I think he's brilliant. Just 17 points more than where they were last season. They've lost Vlahovic, and the intensity is still there. The belief is still there. What he's done with Odriozola for me is just, it's incredible, I think he's just a wonderful coach who really buys into everything and takes a lot of defensive risks. And usually I don't like coaches who do that, but he more than makes you understand why he's doing that. But I also want to give a shout out to Paolo Zanetti in Venezia. I think he's got a tough job there because it's a dressing room that speaks about 35 different languages, each player comes from a different country, basically. And yet he's managed to really unite a group and create a dressing room harmony. And a lot of these players are based on, buying them for statistical reasons or where they come from or what they think they can provide. But he's actually extracted a lot of quality from players that perhaps a lot of teams wouldn't buy or wouldn't have anywhere near their squad. And yet I see them play and I think to myself, it's a very, very good team. It's a hard to beat team. It's a solid team and it's a happy team. And I think Zanetti deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, there's others I could still name as well. Zanetti's a good shout. I think Thiago Motta at Spezia, of the newly promoted teams, they're the ones who are punching the furthest so far. And I think he's another Gasperini disciple who I think he'll get his chance sooner or later. So in some ways you sort of think just because he's a big name as a former footballer, that will happen. And who knows, maybe Inter, of course, where he played one day. And I wouldn't say a big club yet. We did talk on the podcast about Davide Nicola and the job he keeps doing getting clubs out of trouble.
Yeah, I agree with you.
If he gets Salernitana out of trouble, which I think might be beyond him, but if he does it, then he's really earned at least a solid mid-table job after constantly fighting everyone's fires for 3 seasons in a row.
So we're talking about where would you put Nicola, by the way? Like a Torino?
Oh, yeah, I feel like a Torino.
I'm joking.
Settle down. No, I mean, if Mina just wants trouble this week, she wants your Roma supporters out there to come.
Only because our producer is a Roma fan as well, so it's funny.
Maybe a Fiorentina, if Italiano goes and gets a bigger job, maybe that could be a next step for Nicola as the step on the way up.